Hey everyone, thanks for joining us in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Molly O'Brien. This is Bonnie Epstein. She's Executive Director of the Rhode Island Museum of Science and Art.
Yes, we also go by the acronym RIMOSA, because
RIMOSA.
Yeah.
RIMOSA or RIMOSA?
RIMOSA, but it doesn't really matter. So
all of the above,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So thanks so much for being here today. This is pretty exciting, not only for us, but for you and the organization. So after 7 years of doing so many fun, cool activities and pop-ups in other people's homes, right? So in libraries and in different places, finally found a home of your own and opened up earlier in June. So just tell me a little bit about where you're at. And for people who aren't familiar with RIMOSA, tell us just a little bit about who you are.
Absolutely, thanks. So, so as you noted, we're the Rhode Island Museum of Science and Art, and we definitely want to emphasize that the art is there as well. We like to say we were STEAM before STEAM was cool. We did used to do, well, we still do programs. We'll be doing summer programs at the libraries now, and after-school programs, but we now have this site at 763 Westminster Street, so
kind of our neighbors,
exactly. Yeah. So, and our hours are from 12 to 5 on Saturdays and Sundays, and 1 to 5 on Thursdays and Fridays. So it's limited hours. If you have a group, though, you can call Monday through Wednesday.
Cool.
Yeah, for by appointment only. And it's basically a large open site. Excuse me. And this kind of ties in a little bit with what I brought in that. The three things that sort of make something RIMOSA, this is what we got together and decided what makes us us, is that it has to fit in with our basic tenets, the things that create good scientists and good artists. We say there are 4 basic traits that they have to be. You have to be observant, curious, able to experiment, and able to communicate.
I like that.
Thanks. So yeah, and that's the thing is a lot of times we get hung up when people say, well, I see the art in this, but where's the science? Or I see the science and where's the art? And we used to try and stumble over ourselves and be like, well, here it's, yeah, exactly. A little bit this, and then we're like, why are we doing this? This is the whole reason that we exist, is to tell people, no, don't separate them. It's the same thing. What we're trying to do, those sort of 4 traits that we're trying to encourage are what make good scientists, good artists, good creative people, good creative thinkers and problem solvers in whatever you do. So now we don't answer. If someone says, where's the science and where's the art? We always say, it's really the process.
I like that.
So thank you. So again, what you will find there are basically some exhibits and activities. They are all hands-on. That is key. Everything we do has to be hands-on. They're as open-ended as possible. Again, meaning that it's not so much about doing something and achieving an end, like, well, get the ball to the end of the rope or something, and then you say, well, I did it, that was great, moving on. It's more open-ended, like, like sand, essentially.
Oh,
right?
yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Exactly.
So it's not, yeah.
Right, you go to the beach, it's not like you do your beach and then you're done. It's like, well, you could build a castle, or you could dig a hole, or you could look at the little brains under a microscope. It's whatever you want. That's the open-ended part. And we like that because there is no specific end. It allows for all kinds of different outcomes. And so that really heightens creativity. So again, hands-on, open-ended, and then a catalyst for future learning. That we feel like if people come to our site and have a good time, that's great, and we certainly want that. But it's not enough if they then leave and then just plug back in and don't think or do.
Yeah.
So
Plus, being open-ended too, you're not always getting. You can come back and have a totally different experience.
Absolutely,
right?
exactly.
So if you take the sand, for example, one day you can come build a sandcastle, and then the next time you come, you can have a totally different experience when you're there, right?
Exactly, that's right. So one of the things that we have is a Zoetrope, which is a Victorian kind of machine that you make your own. It enables you to make a very short hand-drawn animation. So you make your own animation, you put it in, and very rarely are people like, and that's all I had in me. It was that one animation, and now I'm done, I'm tapped. You'll do that and be like, oh wait, I have another idea. Or you'll look at what somebody else did and be like, right, I'm gonna do that. Or sometimes, as often happens, they'll do it and be like, oh, that was a little jerky. I didn't like how that came out. So again, this brings in, to bring in next generation science standards a little bit, and that sort of that sense of iteration that, you fail, learn, try again, fail, learn, try again, that's something that's really important. And we want that with usually when people say fail, they're like, oh no, epic fail. It's not a good thing. But for us, it's more like, so you do your animation in this example, and maybe you think to yourself, oh, that didn't come out quite the way I wanted to. you don't consider it a fail, you more consider it like stepping stone. I know what to do now. This time, I'm going to make them, bigger images, darker colored, or I'm just not going to do War and Peace in a very short, didn't get that. So again, you can come back many times. Everything that we have, we have a Rube Goldberg, I won't say machine because it's not built, but it's sort of like a materials to make some kind of Rube Goldberg machine, and it'll be different every time. And if that weren't enough, we also will change out the exhibits every 6 months. Not all of them, but at least one.
Some, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a lot of museums. Right?
Exactly, yes. Well, we're hopefully. And then we also have some activity tables and makerspace. It's an active makerspace, and the theme of what the makerspace is tends to change about once a week. So, every time you come in, there'll be something different. Are we working on knots? Are you building catapults? Are you, that kind of thing. So
that's amazing.
Thank you.
And how important you're talking about having failure and experiencing that. For artists and for science, I think that's probably one of the biggest steps that you have to have in order to make that great discovery or to make that great creation, right? Is having that process and experiencing that failure. So do you think that's important for children to experience that in order to have their great success?
Absolutely, and that's when we do our programs, when we've done it in schools, we'll often preface with a brief story. One of my favorites was the story about a lab tech who was cleaning off the countertop, dropped a beaker, broke into 1,000 pieces. And then I'll often say, so we swept it up and hoped nobody would notice it was missing. I'm like, no, just kidding. I wouldn't tell you the story if that were the case.
That'd be like me in the kitchen,
right? Me too. And that's why I became a scientist, actually. I was trained as a scientist because, frankly, I failed a lot. I was a complete mess up. But I kept good notes. And that brings us to observation. So it did break into 1,000 pieces, but the funny thing is he observed that although it was in 1,000 pieces, it was still the same shape. It wasn't all over the floor. It still looked like that beaker. And he thought, what? I gather that's what he thought. But he was curious, so that's their other, and so he thought, again, why does it do this? And it turns out he did a little bit of background what was going on, and there were 2 mistakes that happened there. The first one, obviously, that I told you about, he dropped the beaker, but the second was somebody had mixed a plastic in that beaker prior to his using it, trying to leaving it on the table, and they hadn't washed it out completely. So there was a thin film of plastic all around the inside, right, and that prevented the glass from shattering everywhere. And from this observation and his curiosity, and then a little bit of experimentation because they had to make it just right, they developed safety glass, which is now in all car windshields, so that when you get into a little fender bender or rock comes up and hits your windshield, it's a spider web, but it doesn't have glass shards flying at your face.
Wow, that's so interesting.
And then so we say, so example, here's a fail. Another great fail that we sometimes talk about is, not a lot of people know the story of the guy who was working for 3M on a super glue and came up with, exactly, the exact opposite of super glue. Really, and for 15 years, he's like, what do I do with this? And he finally realized that his friend found out it made a good bookmark, and from there, it became essentially the adhesive that is Post-it notes, which we all know and love. So,
exactly. Can't live without.
Exactly, and that was because of an epic fail. It was the exact opposite of what he was trying for. But, so when we tell people, for artists and scientists, don't throw away, don't ball up. Our education director is an artist and our teacher, and she tells kids often who they are unable to produce what is in their mind, and so they ball it up and they throw it away completely. And instead of doing that, like with the scientist who didn't produce what was in his mind, he's like, super glue, didn't quite come up with it. Instead, he's like, all right, let's work with this. This is what I have been, this is what I've got, let's work with it. So a lot of times I, will bring that up, and I love it when kids kind of take that to heart.
And especially when, adults, can figure it out eventually. They know because we've learned these kind of things, but especially when you can see a child processing and learning and figuring out, and you can see their frustrations turn into success eventually, whatever it is. So to be able to see that and now to have a space to do that all of their own and all of your own, that's pretty exciting.
It is, and we actually love it that our space, unlike a lot of there are wonderful arts and science opportunities throughout Rhode Island, but this was sort of built in reaction to the fact that a lot of them are programmatic. So if you can't make that time, if the program is full, if you're not quite the right age, you're not going to get it. And so this is a space where, again, we have open hours, we're hoping to expand them, but not only is it drop in, whenever you want to. We don't have an age limit, although our target age is 8 and up.
That's what I was going to say. What are the ages? Is there an age that's so 8 and up? Is there an age that maybe might be too old?
No, absolutely not. Never.
I feel like I could go and learn something there, right? Because we're going to do a project
Yeah,
too.
I think you will, and that's actually how we measure the success. If our board isn't pushing kids out of the way to get to whatever it is, then we're not going to do it. And we'll show you. There are adults who are very, who doesn't like to make an animation. So yeah, and I was on the failure too. I sometimes will give a lecture and say, they'll if at first you don't succeed, try again. I'm like, when was the last time you said that? So
exactly. Okay, so geared to ages 8 and up, and you're still doing programs within the community, and you also have camps, which is great.
Thank you so much. Yes, my education director would really not like it. Our camps are, I know exactly, if I didn't mention the camps. We have camps. We actually have an animation camp and a reverse engineering camp. You can go onto our website, www.rimosa.org, to find out more information about them. We're also on Facebook, and you can also just email info@rimosa.org for any information. The animation camps is the week of July 31st, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the reverse engineering camp.
Yeah, we'll put it up online too, and it's all there. Okay, so what did you bring for us today, and what is this?
So this is a Zoetrope. It's, again, kind of a Victorian thing. I know. Cool. We're not 100% sure we're pronouncing it correctly, but you know what? There's no Victorians around to correct us, so we're like, that's the pronunciation we're using.
Okay, it works for me.
Yeah, and I like this also because it kind of illustrates, again, it's hands-on. I can't come without something hands-on. Yeah. It is open-ended in that, so traditionally, this is how it was done. If you look up Zoetrope, you'll see this version. It's a bird without a cage, and then a cage without a bird. So, and then the secret is when you put it together.
That's so fun.
I know, isn't it? I don't know if this is going to show well, but ideally, you'll see a bird in a cage. Oh, right there. Where's my...
Yeah, keep doing that.
Okay, yeah. So anyway.
Point it to that thing.
Hopefully. So anyway, so this is how it works. It's, again, traditionally bird in cage. There is a slight trick to doing it, which I will debate whether or not to mention it to you. There's... The interesting thing, I was going to say I should just let you experiment with it a little bit and see how it's done. I mean, there are many ways. I can explain how to do it, but we tend to issue instructions.
Okay, yeah. So when children come, you let them figure it out.
Generally, it depends on their frustration level. So it depends on how young the child, how more able they're able to deal with the frustration. So yeah, we will sometimes explain. Usually, what we'll say is this was a fish in a bowl. We definitely encourage them. Don't copy this. Bird in cage has been done to a large degree. Think of something and separate it into its two parts. And we've had people, put their name with some of it there and, some of it missing on the other side. The interesting thing is many people will mistake this for, they're used to like flip books. And so they think, it works on the same premise, basically, in that your brain, as smart as you are, nobody's brain is that fast. It will hold an image for a fraction of a second. And so then when it gets more information from your eyes, it will replace that image, but it'll take a while, and if you then quickly put another image, it will superimpose these two images. It's called persistence of vision, even though it has nothing to do with your eyes, it's more your brain. This is what enables us to watch movies, an actual movie, and not be like, there's a still, there's another still, oh, that still's a little bit different, oh, yep, there's another one. We actually see it as seamless motion. If our brains were not able to do that, hold that image for a second, and then blend the other one seamlessly, watching a movie again would be like, watching somebody's slideshow really quickly. So that's what happens. But what they'll try and do is assume that you're going to go, because you see one thing, then you see another, but then you see the first thing again. It's really just superimposition. It's not going to be an animation that changes. So if you try and do a man running, it's not really going to work because
it's not going to
flip.
So
you're just going to see.
Does this one work? Did I do that right?
Yeah, that one can work. So, and then you just
how
literally.
Do you flip it?
So I know you just kind of twiddle it like that. You kind of figure it out. So there's fish in.
Oh, it does work.
Yeah, see, fish in a bowl. So, but I made that, and ideally, and I don't know if we have time, but I have several here for you to try yourself.
I'm nervous I'm going to do something that's not going to work.
Right?
This is the whole point.
That's right.
Right?
The whole point. See how scary the idea of possible failure is? So, and I have to say, I told my kids that once you lose the power to be embarrassed, then people don't have any control over you. If you're like, yep, I was embarrassed, it happens to everybody. So
I just automatically thought of a cat in a box.
do it,
Right?
totally, yeah. So we'll do it just really sketchily quick. I can do one as well if you want to.
Yeah, you do one.
All right.
Okay, so
When
this is.
When you said cat, I thought ball of yarn.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Well, I'm doing that now.
Okay, yes,
You
you
can
do
do
a
cat and
cat. Oh, maybe I'll do a dog and a bone.
Oh, that's good too. Yeah.
So what are some of the? So you have a couple camps coming up. I'm gonna make
yeah.
my pink cat a dog now. So this is turning into. So you have a couple camps, and what? How do people sign up for those kind of things as we continue?
Yes. So we actually do have a form that. We will send out if somebody, as I said, writes to info@ramosa.org. We'll send out a form and they can choose their camp. And then they need to either go onto PayPal. We have, when you go onto our website, www.ramosa.org, there's a little PayPal button, and then you can pay. It's $75 for the week. I should mention to the hours that it is 10 to noon, so it's 2 hours. It's not an all-day camp. We're working our way up. But it's something, just for somebody to do, and it's, as I said, it can be really engaging, and hopefully this will spark the interest that keeps them going all summer.
Yeah.
I have.
And how important is that, do you think, when it comes to incorporating, and everybody's heard of STEM, right?
Sure.
Science, technology, engineering, math. I got those, right?
Yeah.
And you say STEAM because you're adding the art in there, right?
Right.
So how important is that, and how critical is it to incorporate these kind of skills in summer when they have that gap between the school year?
I think it's hugely important, and also during the school year. We actually have this Einstein quote. I remember the short version, I don't remember the longer version, but the short version that many people have heard of is imagination is more important than knowledge.
I like that. This is terrible, by the way.
It's fabulous. Don't even worry about it.
I don't even know where I'm going with this.
And
I want to do the same thing as you.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm going to just stop here.
No, keep going. Keep going.
For starters, my cat is blue.
My dog is pink.
There you go. And I should also mention too, that it's not. It's getting inspiration from. So even if, first of all, I got my inspiration from you. I had no ideas left. So you said cat, and I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I got my inspiration, which I never would have otherwise. And now I feel badly because I basically stole your idea.
No, I like it. I like sharing.
Thanks. Yeah, so there you go. It's sharing, and it's also, I was going to say, I was inspired, so it's really good.
Okay, I'm starting.
So unfortunately, I kind of forgot where I was going with this.
Just inspiration, imagination is more important than knowledge.
I should also mention too that if you do not want to go on PayPal, which I totally understand, to pay for the camps, you can also send us a check for $75. But if you sign up more than one child, it's $10 off per week, so that's $65. And also if you're in the area, the general Westminster area neighborhood, then that's also $10 off. Because our goal truly is to make these as affordable as possible.
Yeah.
Someday, hopefully, we'll get some kind of a business or corporation or even individual to sponsor some camps, and that would be fantastic. So anyway, yes. So imagination is more important than knowledge because, as he said, knowledge is just encompasses what people know, whereas imagination expands the borders to what people don't even know.
I like that.
Thank you. And especially, I think in this day and age, a lot of people find that if you don't know a fact, you can Google it, but then there comes the critical thinking part. You've Googled it and you get a lot of results. How do you know which result is right? What do you believe? So it's important to be able to think critically, and to use your imagination about why else could somebody have posted this or something like that. So this exercise in imagination and critical thinking and creative problem solving, that's one of the bigger ones that we do, is creative problem solving.
That's extremely important as you bridge the gap between the school year and then continue it all year long.
Absolutely.
So Bonnie, Epstein, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to wrap this up. I had to keep my eye on the time. I'll finish mine behind the scenes